Citizens of the internet, we are back to discuss something on the interwebs together, Nate and I, that is not going to change, probably. Maybe it will eventually. That's backwards compatibility. The idea of being able to play old games on new hardware. Now, we are aware that there are some hurdles with these things. That's something we're going to address today. That's apparent. I don't think we have an unrealistic expectation. But I kind of wanted to talk about the state of backwards compatibility, where we're at right now on different consoles, PC, obviously, just pretty much everywhere, and why it's kind of a problem. So, Nate, you're here with me today, right out of prison. How you doing?
Pretty good. I still got my ankle bracelet on, but I'm doing good today.
Nice, and we reached around in your prison wallet earlier. We didn't find anything left over, so sounds like we're doing well. So if you enjoyed today's video, you want to leave a like, subscribe for more content, let us know what you think in the comments down below. I do have a question of the day for you today, which is there a game that you would want to be backwards compatible? Or a game series that you would want to be backwards compatible on something that isn't necessarily? For example, I wish that we could play the Transformers War for and of Cybertron games on modern hardware. That's an example here, so let me know. So I think something that's worth starting with is the fact that backwards compatibility used to be done all the time, and it was done mostly uniformly across different platform libraries. Now, there could be, glitches here and there or issues with it because the emulation was done more in a blanket way, but the idea that used to happen was, hey, you bought a PS2. Guess what? You pop in a PS1 disc, we can play it. I do understand that the problem as games have gotten bigger is obviously some of them, well, pretty much all of them now, require installs. But I don't really understand why this is an issue for everything on the 360 and before. So like PS3, 360, all these things. And people will say, well, it's because the PS3 has cell infrastructure. Oh, well, it's because the Xbox 360, runs differently. My issue is that you have people at home on PC making these things run for free. They literally just got Bloodborne running on PC. It's not perfect yet, but it's running. It took years, but people at home who didn't work professionally on these games got Metal Gear Solid 4 to run on PC. The fact that people at home can do this thing that used to be done all the time is, I think, to me, what makes it inexcusable. And we can talk about some of the hurdles and some of the cases where it doesn't work, or where there's problems, but I want to kind of get your thoughts on that, Nate. You have this thing that used to be done for free. It was included with the price of that console, the idea of you can play your old games, not, hey, now you have to go buy this game on the marketplace digitally and we changed it, or we added achievements, or we did this or that. It was, no, you could just play the game. You bought that game? Cool. We want you to play our new console too. We don't want you to feel like, oh, well, why would I buy that if I can't even play all these games I already spent money on? Yeah,
and I guess my main issue is, back when I was younger, I remember I got a GameCube, and then we got the Wii. The Wii could play GameCube games on it, just any of them. It didn't matter. You just have a GameCube game, you could put in the Wii and play it. And then when we bought the Wii U could play Wii games and Wii U games. So for me, my issue with backwards compatibility is Nintendo's kind of the exception of this, where I think the PlayStation 5 can play PS4 games, the Xbox Series X can play pretty much all Xbox One games, it plays most 360 games, but the Switch can't play obviously any other games than that. So Nintendo's kind of gone away from this, but I don't see a problem. I don't see a reason why your console can't, at the very least, play the last generation.
Right, the one
and
before.
I'm mainly talking about the Switch. Why? What is the point of this? And with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, why can't you play other games on there too? They never change from discs. From the PlayStation 1 era and the Xbox original era, it was always a disc. With Nintendo, they went to cartridges, then discs, then they're back to now cartridges. So they've kind of switched around, but I don't see what the point is.
Well, even with them, you do know that you can buy external disc readers. PCs use them. So it could still even be doable with Switch, where you just have.
Or why can't they just install it in it?
Well, yeah, that's true. Nowadays, you wouldn't be able to. But even if now you wanted to, I'm sure they could put money behind it and say, here's our official Nintendo disc drive. It can play Wii U games.
That's fine.
Or whatever.
I'm fine with that.
We know that there's problems when you get into the issues of games that require certain technology gimmicks.
Yeah.
So like with the Wii U, the fact that Star Fox Zero requires that gamepad.
Sure.
And it functions very particularly with that gamepad. I understand that. But I think most games, I would go as far as to say probably 80% of games that have been made don't require a specific technology gimmick.
Yeah.
And so those games specifically are the ones that for me, it becomes really difficult to justify. Like to me, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, okay, well, people now are able to do PS3 emulators, you know, on their computer. Now they have to use pretty powerful computers for a lot of this stuff because they are kind of brute forcing their way around certain requirements, you know, because the computer, their PC is not built the same way a PS3 would have been built. But then they're able to even run the game better. Like they're able to unlock the frame rate or run it at, you know, double or triple the frame rate. They're able to release patches. People patch games on PC that were originally for console.
Right.
And fix things. And then you have, you know, obviously things like Nintendo, and I'm going to say PlayStation and Xbox now too, where they're using backwards compatibility as a gimmick itself. Because Xbox was doing it to try and get ahead for a while. They were saying, okay, well, we need something to set us apart. What about backwards compatibility? Hey, don't you love the 360? Well, if you get this, you can play it, and maybe it's even enhanced. You know, and then PlayStation kind of came along, and they were trying to do PS Now, which I think sucked.
It didn't really work out.
No, and then they went to their, you know, subscription model where it was like you can either get access to this game now, or a lot of them you can buy finally on PS5. For a while with PS Now, it was just you either get access to stream the game or boo, you can't.
Right.
So I do like now that you can buy those games individually. But even that, like, let's actually think about that for a second. You're going on the PS5 years and years later. Hey, you have, you know, Toy Story 2, the game on disc? Well, that won't play in our system, but you can pay $10 to get it. But back then, you could just pop it in the PS2 and it would work. And I think that, to me, is a big problem with this, is that backwards compatibility, instead of what people do on PC with emulation, where it's about preserving games and making these things work, it's now become something where it's about making an extra $10 here and there. And I don't really personally think the trade-off of we added in achievements or trophies is worth giving up that preservation aspect.
Yeah,
me.
right. Well, and even Nintendo's taken that a step further too. Nintendo has like their full Nintendo Switch, whatever they call it, their online collection thing, membership thing, where basically they take all these old games, not Pokemon, but they take all these other old games and they're like, hey, you can play this in our subscription service here. Yeah. So like they have a full thing, kind of like Game Pass.
Well, it'll be like the SNES library. They'll add 10 games every.
They're not going to let you. Months. They're not going to let you play those games like if you have the original discs or buy them or anything. But you can subscribe to it and play them. So yeah, I don't know. I guess my thing is just I don't see why they can't do both. Like if they want for the digital only crowd, because there's always gonna be digital only people that will die on this hill
and get mad at you if you like this.
Exactly. For the digital only crowd, they could have the digital options. They can pay out their butts all they want for their stupid subscription services. You can have that option. You can also have them buy digitally if you want. Sure, I'm fine with that.
Which, by the way,
I'm okay with it. Yeah,
you know,
I buy digital games.
If you go look at, we still have Wii U's. If you go look at our Wii U's,
there's digital games on there. Yeah.
And there were games we bought when they were shutting down the store, even though we could have just pirated them for free on PC.
Sure.
Because one, we either wanted to support that brand, you know, like those games that weren't made anymore.
Yeah.
Or two, like I remember we bought some F-Zero games. You and me both, because it was like, well, they don't make F-Zero anymore.
Yeah.
Same with Star Fox. We bought some Star Fox games because it was like I think you and I actually put our money, what little of it we have, where our mouth is when it comes to this stuff, where it's like, we will, if you make your game available and affordable, and there is something setting it apart that makes it better, yeah, we'll support it.
Yeah, sure.
But our point also is, isn't it kind of sad that we've gone from this always works, like there's always backwards compatibility, to now there's sometimes backwards compatibility, to, well, now there's sometimes backwards compatibility for some stuff, but you have to buy each game individually, to now there's backwards compatibility, but it's only through a subscription that you have to buy, like Netflix of Nintendo game. No, I don't, like, Yeah, I know people say, oh, slippery slope is a logical fallacy. This is literally an example of a slippery slope.
I know. This deal just keeps getting worse every minute.
This deal is getting worse all the time. Well, dude, people gave it up. They gave up caring that much about it.
Yeah.
They stopped demanding it. So then it was, well, sometimes it'll be here. And then it was, well, you could buy some of those games. And then it seriously was, well, now it's just subscription-based or streaming-based or whatever for a while. And now it's coming back a little bit to, with PlayStation at least, now you can buy them individually, but not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That is a pretty big departure from if you had the disc from then, you can play it.
Yeah, well, and that's just kind of my whole thing with this, and I kind of started this earlier, is like, why can't you have both options? I don't understand what the problem here is, because we used to have the options on pretty much every console to have backwards compatibility with a physical drive.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we're more in an advanced world than like the PS2 where digital media exists, you can have both options.
Right.
You can have your physical, you can have your digital, you can have your streaming service, but you can also have like a physical disc reader. I get games are complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I get things like that, like they're interactive games that everything's going to be different. They might have to go on and individually, make each game work. I get that takes time and money. I understand it. But I also don't feel like it's a big ask to say, can we play this game that you already made in the past for us to enjoy on this system that you have now? Mm-hmm. Especially because they don't resell these consoles. Like, you can't go on there and buy a PlayStation 3 anymore new.
Right, you have to get it used.
You have to get it used, or refurbished or something like that. PlayStation's not selling a PS3.
No, and there's also problems with that too. So, like, for example, you're supposed to, every so many years, like, consoles don't last forever.
No.
I know some people look at their N64 next to them and they say, yeah, they do. No, some do. Some are very durable.
Yeah.
Some aren't. Mm-hmm. You can run into problems where maybe the thermal paste in your PS3 has run out. It's like kind of dissolved or gone bad and you need to add new stuff. A lot of people don't know how to do that. So that's why, like, old technology is not all you can rely on. And I say that sitting next to, literally over on our entertainment center right here, is a GameCube, a PS2, a Wii, or a Wii U, sorry, a PS3, and a 360 plus the modern stuff. Because you and I don't get rid of our old consoles.
Yeah.
So for us, our point isn't, oh, we sold our old consoles, we're butthurt about it. Our point is, no, that's cool and that's great. All of these consoles also do have technical limitations, though, and they have points of failure that do happen. So if you don't make it so that people can do it later, one, you're taking anyone who's not economically doing well, who can't afford to sit on all these pieces of tech, and you're telling them, hey, by the way, you can't enjoy this hobby as well. And two, you're also running the risk of some of these things being inaccessible when all of that hardware fails. Like, there's going to come a point where people don't know how to fix PS2s anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to be very niche for someone to know how to do that. That's why emulation matters. Mm-hmm. And so to your point, when you're saying, well, yes, you might have to go through and finick with those things, here's my question. On my PC, I can download PCSX2, which is a PlayStation 2 emulator. I can put in Silent Hill 2, right? A ROM of it, or I can dump the game from the, disc that I own. Then I can set individual parameters for it. Maybe it runs on, this graphics acceleration, or maybe it needs this form of anti-aliasing. Why couldn't someone do that on an emulator on console? Mm-hmm. Why couldn't you give them those options to mess with the emulator itself? If that's such a big ask that you have to do it, then let them do it. People have been doing it for free on PC for like ever.
I know. Yeah, I know, and that's where gamers can come in. Like, gamers can help each other out online. If someone doesn't know what to do, they can just type in, how do I get my 12 terabyte homework folder to run on my Xbox Series X? And somebody like, oh, hey, glad you asked. I can help you out with that. So, people can help each other out with these things, but I just don't understand why that option's not available.
Well, can I tell you what I think it is that you?
It's money. It's purely money.
But in Pokemon, think about Pokemon. Look at how angry people are about Pokemon now.
Yeah, right.
Don't you think that if you gave them easy access to just go back and play Pokemon Emerald, or an emulation version of Pokemon Soul Silver on their TV screen or something, they might not be as likely to buy the new one?
Yeah, right.
That's what I think the problem is here, is like, why make something free? Like, why make it free for you to get Toy Story 2 the game, if we can sell it to you. Mm-hmm. And I understand that there have been examples where you and I have bought into that because we want to support that thing or want to play it, but like that I think is very intellectually dishonest to hide behind the idea of, oh, it's too hard, but we can sell it.
Yeah, right.
It's like, well, then it must not be that hard if you can sell it.
It all comes down to money.
Yeah.
That's what it all comes down to, money. It's either they don't want to put the money into it to make it work, or they want to purposely leave the ability of it to not work so then they can make money later on. Mm-hmm. So now when they can make money off of it, they can add into a subscription service, they can put in Game Pass, they can add into their Nintendo Switch Online membership thing, or they can release it digitally only, and then they can make money off of that, so you have to rebuy the game for it to work.
Or they don't want to have to compete with themselves.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe this series... I'm not picking on Pokemon here, but I'm saying maybe this series is seen not as favorably now. Mm-hmm. Well, why would we want to compete with ourselves? Why do we want to give them access to the ones that are?
Yeah.
You know, that's not great for us. You've seen this with Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah. Why won't they remake or remaster Modern Warfare 2?
Right, the actual full-on game, not just the campaign.
Right, but instead they're like, well, let's take all those maps and put into the new Modern Warfare 3, which I like the game, so I'm not like hating on it. I still play it to this day. Like, I love the game, but I am totally aware that that's just purely for money.
To get you to buy it.
Yeah, they could easily remaster it like they did with COD 4. They could easily put on the servers online to have people go and play the game multiplayer for Modern Warfare 2. They could remaster the campaign, which they already did. They did an HD remaster of it. They could easily put in the Spec Ops and everything. They don't. Mm-hmm. Because they wanted to add into the new Modern Warfare 3 so people will buy it and be like, oh, hey, I love Modern Warfare 2. I cannot wait to play on Terminal again.
And
that's awesome.
Notice they only really pushed the backwards compatibility of it with Xbox and fixing the servers, just with Call of Duty as an example, when there was money behind it.
Yep.
Because it was like, well, let's fix these servers some. Oh, look, like right after Activision was acquired by, Microsoft. Whoa, it's running better on Xbox.
Look at that.
Oh, but like we still don't have it running well on PlayStation. Mm-hmm. That's an example of money.
Yeah.
Or like even now, I've heard talks of them negotiating to try and get some of these old Activision licensed games back on Game Pass. Mm-hmm. But we also know that they officially discontinued the backwards compatibility program. So it is possible that they will get those licenses and then make a patch for your disc. It is totally possible. But with how greedy everybody has become and the push for Game Pass on Xbox, there's not a financial incentive to do that. And that's what I think the problem is everything is viewed through that lens. Mm-hmm. There is almost nothing viewed through the lens of, hey, this was a piece of art. No one cares.
Right.
Except the people enjoying it. And my thing is, you have people at home for free on PC that'll go back and enhance these games or make them run. Like, even the fact that with Silent Hill 2, because the remake is coming out soon, people on PC made like an enhanced version of it that runs much better.
Right.
They patched it themselves. They got it working. Why can they do that? And it's literally just because of, like what you said, it's money.
Yeah.
They don't care.
That's what it all comes down to. It's, can we make money off of this? No? Well, then we don't care.
Or can we make money off this? Yes, but not as much as you want. You'd only be able to afford one extra yacht this year, not two. Then no bother. No, I'm good with the yacht I got. It's so sad to me, man, because, like, I know that, like, we're looking at it from the lens of people who enjoy these things, and I think that's the problem, is, like, I don't think that anyone looking at these things at the top is looking at it through that lens. Mm-hmm. Which they're rich and we're not. But I do think that there is a moral... I think when you make a piece of art, there's a moral obligation to attempt to preserve it. That's what I personally believe.
Right.
Like, I think art is one of the things that we contribute to the world that should be around for later generations. Now, someone might not read, or someone might not play, your game in a later generation, and it might not affect them the way the Bible did being passed down, or the way, like, Paradise Lost did, or
I'm really upset you mentioned the Bible.
I'm sorry about that. It's still an influential book, whether you like it or not. Like, they might not be as affected by it, and I get that. Like, we might be talking about a different form of art, or different levels of it. Like, my Eminem's Shell-Shocked game might also not change the life of someone later on as much as
Did it change the life of you?
as much as maybe a game later, but I still think that it's something that should matter to people.
Yeah, especially for the recent time. Like in 100 years from now, am I going to be mad that someone doesn't remaster the M&M Shell Shock game? I guess not. I'm going to be dead, so I guess I don't care.
I won't be.
But for right now, it's like the game's 20 years old.
Right.
There are people living today that grew up on this game that can't play it.
Right.
Unless they buy like the original PlayStation 1, which you can't buy.
And everyone should be able to enjoy M&M Shell Shock.
Exactly.
Is the whole point.
That's what we're getting around to here.
Let us know what you think about all this in the comments down below. I will be interested to hear it. I know there's usually some like apologists for why things shouldn't be preserved, which I still find very amusing and interesting. That I don't think will ever change my mind in that direction. But anyways, I am interested in your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, you want to leave a like, subscribe for more content. We do really care about game preservation. This is a variety channel where we cover a lot of other things. If you liked our discussion, you might like one of our other channels, like Degenerate Plays, where we actually play through games together, podcast style, talk, hang out. A lot of people are over there. We appreciate you very much for checking that out. That is a channel I am trying to grow. And also, we do have our own store, cosmobunny.shop, where we take repurposed, recycled comic book and manga pages, and what we do is we turn them into transformative art for your home. Things like coasters, keychains, trays, and more. So every purchase goes to help support us. My wife Jill works very, very hard on that, and she also makes handmade beaded jewelry over there as well. Hope you have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.